that. That's good to know. Thank you. We will also have Ms. Maya Yaron, who is the representative for Israel here in Taipei or Taiwan, and also Mr. Aviv Doron. So without much further ado, let me just hand it over to online for Dr. Moses to share a few words with us to begin the seminar.
Yes, thank you very much. And good morning from Israel, and good afternoon in Taiwan. My name is Shai Moses. I'm the Director of Asia Pacific Division at the Foreign Trade Administration, Ministry of Economy and Industry in Israel. It's a great pleasure for me to welcome all the participants to this important seminar about our economy, our beloved economy here. It's true, we are marking 60 days since this horrendous and unprecedented terror attack that we witnessed in Israel on October 7th, which affected not only Israelis, but also many non-Israelis also, who were also residing with us, many of them also from the Asia Pacific region. People from Thailand and India, Nepal, and others who chose to live with us and reside with us, and were affected also by these attacks. And while it was quite significant, and implications are already evolving and still with us, one thing I take from this period of time is to see how also we respond to this event, how we overcome it, and how we continue our life and business and all our activities with our friends and colleagues around the world. So such a seminar like today, and I saw the distinguished speakers who are also going to present their views and share their expertise. I think it's a wonderful opportunity to have this kinds of knowledge and understanding about the situation. Myself, on October 7th, actually, the next day, October 8th, I was supposed to visit the region, planning to visit Japan, and afterwards Taiwan. I was supposed to visit and have a working visit there. So things sometimes change, and now we have, of course, more here and focusing on things that we need to do, but definitely it was only a postponement. I'm planning to visit you in 2024. So with all the challenges that we are facing at the moment, from what I take from my experience here, Israeli economy is quite resilient for that, and it's important to hear it and understanding some of these views, and for that I thank really the speakers for this seminar. So I wish you all a very fruitful and insightful event. I thank the Economic and Trade Mission in Taipei of Israel to organize this seminar, and wish you good luck and all success. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Moses. And we'll be looking forward towards your visit here into Taiwan. Next, we have Ms. Maya Yaron from the Israel Economic and Trade Mission in Taipei. I'm sorry, sorry, the Cultural Office in Taipei. All right.
Good afternoon. Thank you, dear colleagues. Online joining us, Bank of Israel, Israel Innovation Authority, Entity Innovation Laboratory in Israel, and Ourcrowd. And here, thank you from the Industrial Technology Investment Corporation and from Investment Media Limited, home of Wealth Magazine, Business Today, and Wealth Invest Weekly. Distinguished guests, thank you all for joining us today here on Economic and Investment Outlook Forum. Israel is going through its darkest time, and this is why we're here today. In a few minutes, you will hear from economic, financial, and business experts about the amazing resilience of the Israeli people and companies. You will hear about our quick reactions and great agility to the changing circumstances. You will hear about our vast experience emanating from previous military operations in managing our market economy in challenging times. You will also hear about the unique organizational of our culture of our companies. Our informal nature fosters flexibility and creativity. These are essential assets to have in difficult times. And you will also hear about the commitment and the spirit of the Israeli companies, how entire teams shoulder additional tasks to go an extra mile and ensure the continuation of functionality of a company. Company's motto is business as usual, Zheng Chang Ying Wang. And the delivery is on time, and this is extraordinary considering the circumstances. I would encourage you to check everything I say for yourself. Listen yourself to Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger, who here in Taipei only a few weeks ago was telling about Intel's experience with Israel and their commitment to Israel and the region. Listen to NVIDIA's CEO, Jensen Huang, who instructed bonuses and financial support to his employees in Israel. You are better business people than I am. You know that a decision like this is not only based on goodwill. It is a decision taken from a place of knowing that this is a worthy investment in Israel and it will bear fruits. I will leave it up to the experts that will follow me to elaborate further on these economic and financial issues. And I will ask your permission for 1 minute to talk to you not as the prominent business people that you all are, but as humans, as men and women, as sons and daughters, as people who live in a liberal democratic society here in Taiwan. I want to speak to your hearts and not only to your minds. And I know this is a bit challenging, but let me try for a minute. Please think of yourself at your homes when it is a Saturday morning and you are with your whole family together. Let's say it is Zhongqiujie, a national holiday, and you're all together. And then in your own home, in a safe place, the terrorists arrive. And you hear the rockets in the sky. And you hear the sirens go up and down. And you hear your children cry. And this is when the terrorists arrive. And I will stop here because I think all of you during the last 61 days of this war followed the news and you know what happened on October 7 in Israel. For us, it is not yet over. These horrible atrocities continue to be with us. The stories that we hear from the people continue to reveal. Last week, we followed with a lot of happiness and relief the return of 110 of our hostages. They were held in Gaza for 50 days. The happiness starts to be diminished as we hear the stories of what they have been to while held in Gaza. We'll still have 137 hostages being held in Gaza, 20 women, 2 children, 137 people. It is our shared responsibility to speak up and make sure that the whole world knows that this is wrong to kidnap civilians, children. I am sharing this hard story with you, and I want to thank you for your willingness to listen because this is uncomfortable, I know. But I believe that once you know how big of a challenge Israel is facing, you will also know to appreciate how powerful and how strong Israeli people are. There is no doubt Israel will prevail. We didn't choose this war. It was forced on us on October 7th, but we will win it because there is no other way. And we will learn and we will be better and improved after it. our resilience, our agility, our unity, and our strength. You see it now in combat. You see it now in our companies, and you will see it soon in our economy's recovery. And the recovery, I promise you, will be a quick one, because there is no other way for us. So let me conclude by saying there is a lot you can do to support Israel. And continuing to invest and do business with Israeli companies is not only making a smart business move, it's also making the human right thing to do. Israel is going through one of its darkest times, and we need our friends to be here with us. A friend in need is a friend indeed. Thank you for being here today and to be with Israel.
Thank you, Maya. I think just by being here today for our guests in Taiwan is a show of support for the state of Israel. There are many things that we will learn from them and that we can learn from them. And one of the things today that the trade mission has prepared for us is to let us know what's going on in Israel. So our next speaker is from the trade mission, the Israel Economic and Trade Mission in Taipei, which is the local office of the Israeli Foreign Trade Administration at the Ministry of Economy and Industry. The ministry is responsible for managing and directing the international trade policy of the State of Israel. And from that, we have Mr. Aviv Doron, who will give us a few words.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to our Israeli speakers and good afternoon here to our audience in Taipei. The warm welcome to all the guests that joined us online today. On behalf of Israel Economic and Trade Mission in Taipei, I would like to extend a warm welcome to our speakers from Israel, from Japan, and from Taiwan. Hello, Michelle. It's great to have you here. Since October 7th, the Israeli economy is facing one of its biggest challenges in the 21st century. The need in providing secured working places during the recent fighting and warfare, as well as ensuring the stability and the longevity of the various supply chains had become challenging more than ever during warfare. Alongside the growing global demand and need for advanced technologies, tech-driven solutions, and innovative R&D capabilities, the Israeli industries, as well as the tech sector and the financial district and institutions, are showing a high resilience with ensuring delivery on time. Earlier this week, as posted by TechCrunch, we learned that Fortelix, an Israeli company focusing in solutions for autonomous driving, has closed its Series C round investment with a total value of $85 million, led by big VCs in Asia Pacific region, including Temasek, Isuzu, Toyota, NVIDIA, Volvo Group, and also Ourcrowd from Jerusalem. This investment shows a very strong, unwavering support and stand with the Israeli tech industry, who works tirelessly to deliver in these challenging conditions, no matter what. Israel is the home of over 7,000 startups, over 400 multinational companies who set their R&D centers, over 400 hubs, and 500 investment firms and entities. It is a unique ecosystem combining innovative inventions and development, as well as persistence, resilience, and agility, in order to cope with the ongoing challenges as we experienced it in the last couple of decades. Taiwan and Israel are complementary economies where Taiwan's core competency is in precision manufacturing and advanced semiconductor domain. It could complement its portfolio of solutions with Israeli cutting-edge innovative solutions and advancing its core competent economy. Last but not least, I would like to thank to all of our partners who teamed up to create this event, consolidating valuable and insightful information. Bank of Israel, Israel Innovation Authority, Entity Innovation Lab in Israel, Ourcrowd, ITIC, and the exclusive media partners Investment Media Limited, home of Wealth Magazine, Business Today, and Wealth Investment Weekly. Special thanks to Taipei Computer Association for hosting us today. Last but not least, I would like to thank my team, Ms. Elsa Hsieh and Ms. Kaiding Huang, for their orchestration and consolidation of this event from A to Z. I hope this event will lay the foundation for stronger and tighter discussions and collaborations between Taiwanese and Israeli business entities. And once again, I would like to thank you all for joining us in person and online, and wishing you an insightful and interesting session. 谢谢大家.
Thank you, Aviv. Let's start with today's seminar. The first speaker we have for this afternoon's seminar is Dr. Adi Brenda. Dr. Adi Brenda is the head of research department of the Bank of Israel and a member of the Monetary Policy Committee. He holds a BA and MA degrees from economics and business from the Hebrew University in Jerusalem and a PhD from Columbia University. Dr. Brenda also worked at the International Monetary Fund before joining the Bank of Israel. So if we could have some words and to give us updates on the economy of Israel from Dr. Brenda.
Good afternoon, everyone. While we're waiting for the slides to come on, what I'll do today is I'll use my time to give you the story of the Israeli economy during times of crisis. We're actually at a good junction to deal with describe this kind of issues, because we're just following the COVID-19 crisis and the very strong recovery of the Israeli economy from COVID-19. So what I will do in the next few slides is I'll show you how the Israeli economy performed during and after COVID, what impact it had on the Israeli economy. Then I'll show you how the Israeli economy performed historically in other crisis situations, and again, with the resilience of the economy and the strong recovery in these conflicts as well. And finally, I will take you through the current crisis, where we already see that after the initial impact of the atrocious Hamas attack on October 7th, the Israeli economy is already showing signs of recovery. So if we can go down 2 slides. Next one. Thank you. So here you can see the trend of GDP growth in Israel, where you can see in 2020, where COVID-19 began, we had a sharp drop of economic growth, and then the economy was rebounding relatively strongly. In most developed countries, the comparison line is just coming back to the absolute level of GDP. Some countries, most countries have already recovered this level, some still did not. In Israel, we're looking at the trend line of GDP growth, which is somewhere between 3.5% and 4% per annum, because the economy is growing stronger for quite a while now, for the previous decade. So the target is not really to come back to the level of GDP in the pre-crisis period, but to reach the trend. This was achieved in Israel somewhere between the 3rd and 4th quarters of 2021. And since then, as you can see, the economy was performing somewhat above the pre-COVID trend, and with a convergence towards this trend, which I'll talk about in a minute. Next slide, please. Here you can see a mirror picture of what I showed you before in the labor market. The green line, which relates to the right-hand side scale, shows the unemployment rate. Unemployment was declining on a very stable path from the beginning of the previous decade until the beginning of COVID. You can see the surge of this green line during COVID, and then the decline again and coming back to the trend just until the current war. The unemployment rate at the main working ages of 25 to 64 was somewhere below 3%. And this was coming on top of an increase in the employment rate so this came back on top of an increase in employment and participation rates. So this is not a reflection of people leaving the labor force, but instead of increasing employment. Next slide. This was also reflected on fiscal policy. Since the beginning of the current century, Israel was on a constant declining path of a debt to GDP ratio. Just before COVID, we reached the level of 60% or slightly below 60%. This is sort of the European benchmark and the Maastricht Treaty for sound fiscal position. So Israel was just there. During COVID, of course, we had a surge of the public debt. This reflected both increased government expenditure to support the economy during COVID and also some lost revenue due to the decline in economic activity, which I showed you before. But as you can also see, by the end of 2022, the debt to GDP ratio was already back pretty much at where it was in the pre-COVID period. And coming into this war in October, we've actually been below 60%, and the projected end 23 debt to GDP ratio was below 60%, somewhere around 59%. Next slide. By international comparison, Israel debt to GDP ratio is now somewhere around the median of the OECD countries. Again, I showed you earlier that before, in the beginning of the century, we were at 90%. Then it was pretty much among the highest levels in the OECD countries. But during the century, there was a sort of a crossing that ratios in most OECD countries were increasing. In Israel, they were decreasing. So now we are pretty much in the median of the distribution. And this is very significant, of course, for the ability of fiscal policy in Israel to respond to crisis. We do have the fiscal space to manage a crisis. We did so in COVID and recovered very quickly. And the fiscal resources are available for Israel to absorb the shock of the current war. And again, I'll get to this towards the end of my presentation again. Next slide, please. Here you can see inflation. The strong recovery from COVID and the return to full employment and above was accompanied by an increase in inflation. This was true in most of the developed world as well as in Israel. We've reached an inflation rate of more than 5% towards the end of 2022. But the Bank of Israel has adopted the tight monetary policy. We're actually among the first central banks to respond to inflation with a tightening monetary policy. And again, during 2023, we can see the deceleration of inflation. On September, again, just before the war began, inflation was at 3.7% already. This is true both for overall the headline inflation and core inflation. So we were on a sort of a soft landing situation where both inflation is decelerating, GDP is still above trend, but converging from above, as I showed you earlier. And so very smooth and successful recovery from COVID-19. Next slide, please. Here we see just an international comparison. Again, if you look at the right-hand side, this is headline inflation. Israel's inflation was well below that of OECD countries. This is also reflecting the energy independence of Israel, which did not suffer from the international price increases of energy due to the Russia-Ukraine war. On the left side, you can see core inflation, excluding food and energy. And you can see here again that the differences between Israel and the OECD median were smaller, but now where energy prices are less of a player in the system, we are well below the OECD distribution in terms of inflation, adjusting the definition of food and energy the food category to the common one in the OECD. We are 3.2% annual inflation compared to 5% at the OECD median, and you can also see the distribution of the OECD countries here. And we're well below that. Next slide, please. Okay, the high-tech, next slide. The high-tech sector in Israel has benefited tremendously from the COVID-19. During COVID, people were sitting at home using their computers. They needed the telecommunication, they needed the internet lines, they needed cyber protection, all these things that are produced by Israeli company and services provided by Israeli high-tech service companies. You can see this surge of investments in Israeli high-tech, and you can see that the following COVID, this has begun to decelerate. And currently, when we're looking at investments in Israel in 2023, they are pretty much back to where they were in 2019 in terms of the magnitude of investment. Next slide, please. However, this decline that I showed you did not lead to a significant reduction in activity of the high-tech sector. Actually, you can see here that employment in high-tech decelerated but continues to grow on a very moderate path. Wages are still increasing in this sector because it becomes more and more difficult to find employees in Israel, but they still do. This is also reflected in a decline in the vacancy rate, the number of open jobs in the high-tech sector, but it is still positive and still reasonably high levels, although lower than the pre-COVID level now. And revenues are still increasing basically on the same trend line that has accompanied us in the previous few years. And the same is true, I'm not showing it here, for exports of high-tech services and high-tech industries as well. So in that respect, the high-tech sector has withstood current decline in the international economy very well, continued to operate. One of the reasons is that during this period of accumulating capital transfers, companies in Israel were smart enough to hold some of these funds, keeping them as sort of rainy day funds. And the talk in the industry was that somewhere between 1.5 and 2 years of funds were available for the Israeli companies when the crisis began, so they could actually withstand the stoppage of investments and still operate. Of course, we are now more than a year into this decline, and this is becoming more challenging, but we also see some recovery now in interest and some investments beginning to come back. But this is very important for the sector that is still maintain their liquidity during this crisis. Next slide. Another benefit of Israeli high-tech, unlike the dot-com crisis in 2000, is that this is now a very well diversified sector. In 2000, it was pretty much telecom. Now, as you can see, there is a wide variety of high-tech branches, various activities that the high-tech sector is involved in. And also we now have not just dream companies, but quite a substantial number of companies that are already selling products and services that are in progressive stages of development. So this is a very mature dynamic sector now as compared to the past. Next slide. And the next one. So now I'm taking you to the current war. As I said, Israel entered this war on a very strong footing. Here you can see the performance of the Israeli economy in terms of GDP on previous crises. The red lines are the quarters where we had military conflicts during the last 20 years. And what you can see is, of course, there is some drop in activity during these quarters. You can also see the very strong recovery immediately following it. We also have here in gray the COVID, very sharp decline, but you can also see the very strong recovery. It's not in red because it wasn't a military conflict and not a geopolitical conflict, but still you can see the same dynamic of the Israeli economy immediately after this crisis. Next slide. So now looking at the current war, this is an indicator that we follow very closely at the bank because this is a fast indicator. This is credit card purchases. The data go through the Bank of Israel, so we know the volume. You can see here that when the war started with this atrocious attack on October 7th, purchases declined by more than 20%. But you also see that since the beginning of November, there is a recovery. Basically, we've reached the pre-war level. These are particular days of a ceasefire, so it's a bit higher than normal, but we're still at a decline now of about 3 to 4% if we look at the last few days. And of course, this is a much stronger performance than we had during the month of October when the war just began. Next slide. Here we look at the one thing that is still a matter of concern for the Bank of Israel. We're looking at the risk premium on which Israeli debt is traded on international markets. This is the difference between the return on Israeli government 10-year dollar-denominated bonds and US government bonds. As you can see, immediately in the beginning of the war, there was a jump in the returns and the yields. It is coming down now moderately, but it's still much higher than the pre-war level. So foreign investors are still concerned about the Israeli economy, and this is, of course, something that we take into attention. Most of the Israeli government debt is denominated in domestic currency, where the yields did not increase, but still, this is something that is a matter of attention for us at the Bank of Israel and for the Ministry of Finance. Next slide, please. Nevertheless, you can see in the red line here, this is the development of the nominal effective exchange rate, the trade-weighted exchange rate of the Israeli shekel. And indeed, you can see here the significant depreciation of the currency when the war began. But you can also see the following appreciation. And actually, right now, the currency is more appreciated than it was when the war began. So we do see indications of a return of market confidence in the foreign exchange market. And this is even much better than in previous crises. Here you can see a previous crisis in the blue line, for example, the Second Lebanon War, the operation in Kastlid in 2008, 2009, where the green line, where we actually had a significant depreciation well into the conflict. But here, we actually see an appreciation. So this is a sign of confidence and something that the Bank of Israel has worked very hard to achieve, both in terms of the monetary policy, in terms of foreign exchange market operations, but we did manage to stabilize and even get some appreciation of the foreign exchange. And this is very significant in terms of stabilizing all the other markets, financial markets in the economy. Next slide. Here you can see inflation expectations. Again, we've seen some drop in inflation expectations when we got into this war, but basically now they are back at where they were before the war. And again, it's the same pattern that we see in most indicators. Even though the war is continuing, the economy is basically rebounding to the pre-war level in various indicators. Next slide. Labor market, again, what you can see here is the broad unemployment rate, because most employers see the economy as recovering relatively soon. They don't want to fire their employees in this current period, so they use furloughs instead. Employees are furloughed, they're sent to the employment service, and the government is paying the unemployment benefits for this fund. But yet they keep all their relationships with the employer, and then they can come back. So unemployment including furloughs, the broad unemployment rate has jumped from 3% to about 10%. Next slide. But if we look at various other indicators for the labor market, which are available for later periods, later dates, we can already see here the drop in the number of new registrations of furloughed employees in the employment service from a top of about 6,000 today at the end of October. We're now at less than 3,000, and it is still declining. This figure does not include the people that have come back. So if people are returning to employment, there is no record of that. They don't have to report that they are back, just they have to register when they're furloughed. So actually, if you make the integral, if you take the integral of this figure, the numbers are much lower than what you'll get because many of these people are already back at work. Next slide. And here you can see reports of employers, and basically the blue bars that are higher than the orange ones just tell you that things were worse in October than in November. On the left-hand side, this is in terms of impacted employees. On the right-hand side, this is in terms of effect on revenue. And businesses are, as I said, recovering gradually from the war. And you can see that on these indicators as well. These are fast surveys conducted by the Central Bureau of Statistics. Next slide. Next slide. Here you can see also on the credit markets that basically there was some increase in the spreads of business sector bonds in most sectors. They've all come back to the normal level, except the construction sector. Construction companies are still paying higher differentials on their bonds because particularly this is reflecting the shortage of employees. Construction in Israel is based on a lot of Palestinian workers that are coming from particularly the West Bank. These are not coming now because there is a closure, and this affects the operations of the construction companies, and is also reflected, of course, in their bond yield, although the difference is not dramatic anymore. It was very dramatic in the first few days of the war, but it is converging to the pre-war levels, although still higher. Next slide. So all of these pictures, next slide. All of this picture is taking me to the final slide where I show you the recent macroeconomic forecast that the Bank of Israel has issued. We've issued one when the war just began, and we, of course, updated based on the developments in the war, in the markets since then. We're now projecting growth of 2% of GDP this year and also 2% next year. In 2023, this is reflecting a reduction. I mean, in the first 3 quarters, the economy were growing at more than 3% rate. But with a negative 4th quarter that we are estimating now, the growth will decline to 2% this year, and this is the impact of the war, about 1 percentage point loss of GDP. 2024, we start from the bottom after this, the effects of the war, but with a recovery that we're already seeing in the economy, we think that the economy will converge also to a 2% growth in 2024. And this will be reflected also in a only moderate increase in the broad unemployment rate on average for the year. The fiscal cost of the war is going to be reflected in the debt to GDP ratio, higher government expenditures, some loss of revenue because of the decline in activity. So we see the debt to GDP ratio coming up to about 66% of GDP by the end of 2024. And of course, the major challenge for the government would then be to bring it back, first to stabilize it and then to bring it back to the 60% level in the following years. Something that is going to be, of course, challenging with the need to raise defense expenditures in the next few years to rebuild the army in different ways than it was working before this war began. But this is, of course, a much smaller challenge than we had post-COVID. So in that respect, we're quite confident that the government can regroup and make the effort to bring the debt to GDP ratio back to the required levels. Thank you very much.
You. And thank you for sharing with us the fact that Israel has come back fully since the beginning of the war through its economy and its trade. It seems like the currency has stabled, and I think you mentioned that the currency actually, the Israeli shekel, has actually appreciated compared to prior to the war. Is that correct, Dr. Brenda?
Yes, this is correct. We're now appreciated by about 4 to 5%. This is in terms of the nominal effective exchange rate. If we look vis-a-vis the dollar, the appreciation is stronger. But this, of course, just reflects the cross rates on the international markets. So yes, we've managed to do that, maintaining interest rates, the central bank interest rates at the pre-war level. We did not raise interest rates during this conflict, but we did not lower them as well. And we did launch a foreign exchange market intervention program up to $30 billion. We're not reporting, of course, how much we do on a current basis, but by the end of October, we used $8 billion. This is equivalent to about 1 day volume, less than 1 day volume of trade on the shekel dollar market. But we did intervene on mostly on the sensitive days in the beginning of the war, where we actually saw some very high quotes. And you could see that there was a depreciation in the beginning. That was, we thought that the foreign exchange market would be the best place to stabilize markets all around. It worked.
Yes, that sounds very sensible. The reason I'm asking up that follow-up question is because here in Taiwan, us Taiwanese are very familiar with the foreign exchange rate, or we're very concerned about foreign exchange rates, especially for investments and for export and import trade. Perhaps, I know you're probably limited in your role, but perhaps you could share with us your views on the, let's say, the broader impact of foreign exchange. Let's say, how does it compare with, say, 5 years ago? Perhaps the stability of the shekel versus the US dollar, so that for investors here in Taiwan, perhaps we can get a better sense of where the exchange rate is going.
Yeah. So actually, in the last few years, and actually since the beginning of the previous decade, the shekel has been appreciating constantly, or almost constantly. In fact, in the last few years, the Bank of Israel was constantly intervening in the markets to slow down, sort of lean against the wind, to moderate the appreciation of the shekel, to allow exporting industries to adjust better to the appreciation. This was coming pretty much on the back of the very strong performance of the high-tech sector, huge inflows of investment coming into the economy, both in terms of purchases of companies, building new R&D centers in Israel. All of these were paying high wages, employing large numbers of people. High-tech overall is about 17% of GDP now in Israel. Based on employment in the sector is about 12%, with a very significant part of people in the scientific jobs in the R&D sector, not just the commercial jobs. This is of course, the highest proportion in the world of R&D sector relative to GDP. In addition to that, Israel also enjoys now sort of energy independence, at least in terms of the supply of energy for the electricity sector. This is based on our natural gas domestic reservoirs that were discovered in around 2012, 2013, and replaced both more polluting energies as well as imports from Egypt and from the rest of the world. So now this is a domestic produced source of energy on top of some solar energy that we have. But also more than that, when talking about inflation, natural gas is supplied based on multi-year stable price contracts. So when energy prices soared around the world, in Israel, we did not have an impact at all because the contracts were long-term contracts with fixed prices. So this is also a stabilizing mechanism. At some periods, actually, industry is paying higher prices because of these long-term contracts. But when a crisis hits, like the Russia-Ukraine war, this was very significant and stabilized the inflation, stabilized the operations of these companies, and allowed them to maintain profitability even when energy prices around the world were soaring.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you, Dr. Brender. In the quest for keeping on track on time, we're actually running a little bit behind. So without much further ado, let's give a hand of some applause to Dr. Brender for sharing with us. Thank you, Dr. Brender.
Thank you.
Next, we have a speaker from the Israeli Innovation Authority. Is he online?
Yes, I am.
Yes,
Good
Mr.
afternoon.
Shlomi Kaufman. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Hello, hi. Well, welcome.
Hi.
Let me just read a little
Thank
bit
you.
to introduce you, okay? As
Thank
the
you
Vice
so much.
President and Head of International Collaborations Division at Shlomi is responsible to promote the Innovation Authority's collaborations with international entities, including research facilities, hospitals, universities, as well as multinational corporations interested in conducting joint R&D ventures and pilots with Israeli companies, while promoting and assisting the international reach of the Israeli tech industry. So thank you for coming online, Mr. Kaufman, and if I can hand it over to you, where you will be talking, or where you will be presenting to us the resilience of the Israeli high tech.
So thank you so much, and it's great to be with you, and of course thank you for the opportunity to introduce the Israeli, not just the Israeli Innovation Authority and what we do, but I would say the Israeli tech sector a bit more in depth. I would say the achievements, but also certain challenges that we face at the moment. But before maybe jumping into a presentation, I want kind of to deliver one important message. You saw the booklet, the booklet of this event, that it carries the message of Israeli tech delivers no matter what. And it's important to understand what it does. What does it actually mean? It's not just a slogan. It's not just a message which is kind of baseless. We deliver, and the Israeli tech delivered and will continue to deliver because it's human-based, because it's based on our spirit of innovation and creation. And it has been like this for decades. And
excuse me, Mr. Kaufman.
Yeah.
Do you want us to share the slides as you're talking, or?
Momentarily, yes.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I'll get the slides, but sure. And the important message here is to understand that despite the war and the challenge and the tragic event that we experience here, in the past, these days, and in the future, no war can stop the human spirit and our spirit to continue to create and to deliver. And this is the most important thing, because that's why we decided that the message is Israeli tech delivers no matter what, because for us it's the spirit, it reflects the spirit of our country, and we need to continue. We'll continue to do so. So talking about the resilience of the Israeli tech, maybe just a couple of figures. Do you see the slides? Hello?
No, we can't see.
Yeah, okay, good, good, good.
No slides.
No slide. Okay, do you see now?
No.
No, I'm sorry. Hold on. Just 1 second. Okay, now we'll do that. Okay, good. Okay.
Yes, we see it.
Now you see that. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. So let's look at some of the figures of the Israeli tech. There are differences maybe between the 2021, 2022, but we can definitely the figures that are presented here, that about 12% of the Israeli workforce is responsible for 20% of the GDP and about 18, and 30% of the income, is definitely signifies and proves the importance of Israeli tech, the reliance of the Israeli economy, the strengths and the importance of the export of the tech, and therefore, of course, our connections, on a global arena. But the tech has been an engine in the Israeli economy for the past 20 years, and there is no doubt among all of us here that it will continue to be the engine and the major engine behind the Israeli economy. You can see from this slide, from the next slide, the number of companies, and I'm aware of the fact that Israel here is somewhere on the line with most of the numbers are presented here reflect or show a city, but even if you compare to, if we relate to Israel as a small country similar to Taiwan and as well as Singapore, you see that the number here of Israeli companies that raised capital and the significance of the number is leading. It's leading in the world, and it's basically third to San Francisco and New York. One of the major components, and I would say, you see the factor which is responsible. In a way, it's one supporting the other. The creativity and the innovation of the Israeli ecosystem attracted so many multinationals to move to Israel and investing in Israeli companies and Israeli startups, because the innovation and the kind of the entrepreneurship is here. And so far we experienced a significant presence of Israeli multinationals, with over 400 multinationals present here, which in a small area, small territory, and as I said, because of the innovation here. At the same time, that also these companies are supporting the ecosystem, which actually creates and generates more startups, and this, it's all bubbling and pushing one and the other. And add to this the third component is, of course, the investment, and you see all the major investment. Major VCs and are active in Israel, looking at the Israeli innovation, Israeli startups throughout the year, and you see this basically in normal times. You see a constant acquisition of companies, the constant present. We experience visits of companies, of VCs scouting for Israeli companies. So that's a very active arena. Now, a few words about the Israeli Innovation Authority and our mandate and what do we do. The Israeli Innovation Authority, which is government-sponsored agency, is responsible for carrying the mandate of supporting and making sure that Israel continues to be an innovative leader. We do it through three stages. One is supporting direct investments in startups, and today we're looking more and more into deep tech, into investing in climate, investing in health technologies, because this is where we see the next frontier. We always invest with co-investment from the private sector, and trying to and acting actually, we are acting actually like a VC with a budget of $500 million a year, which basically is being naturally multiplied when there is investments coming into the same companies from the market. We support emerging technologies, so it's not just the startup level, it's not just the seed and Series A and the pre-seed, but we also support and nurture the infrastructure that will allow emerging technologies to scale and to develop. And we support labs and talents always in all these cases. It's with matching from the market. One thing to add: we're not taking equity, and that basically reduces the pressure on the founders, and acting as the biggest, I would say, enabler in the Israeli market. And the third pillar, I would say, is removing growth barriers, working with all the Israeli authorities, with different ministries, with different regulators, in order to be an enabler, in order to allow the market to flourish, to develop, and to remove barriers. And the philosophy here is to bring all the other stakeholders as partners in our way to innovate, to preserve Israeli high-tech sector in the leadership position. Another slide to show a bit about how we support. You can see we basically looking at companies on all different levels. We identify that here at the bottom, these are the future tech waves, and we support tech transfer, we support developing infrastructure, as I mentioned earlier. And at this stage, that where we support also companies moving from startups and all the way to large companies, and we try. One of the ideas of having working to be as an enabler, I mentioned, with regulators, is to address the market further so they can scale in Israel and not and stay here and continue to support the economy. So what about the periods of challenges? One of our experience, not the experiences, but the internal understanding is that necessity generates innovation. And we saw that after every cycle of violence, as we experienced in the past, we experienced a new wave of innovation, a new wave of creation, a new wave of economic development. So one of the things that the Israeli Innovation Authority, together with the Ministry of Finance, took immediate steps, was to open a fast-track fund for Israeli companies to extend the runway for the startups. Because as a result of mobilization into the military, many people had to leave their offices, leave their startups, and go and fight. And we had to find a way to support them during this hard period during these difficult times, so they can pass successfully and get back and stay on their feet as long as the war continues and they are mobilized. So what we did is, again, we always match with private sector and overall investments of $250 million. So together it brought significant contribution. And the companies that we focused on was high-tech companies with short runways, with technological business assets, product development, and low availability of investment capital for its current investors. So basically, to try and see who are the actors that may have a difficulty to survive, and support them during these difficult times. A few words about the into the International Collaboration Division and what we do. Basically, we work with our partners on the global arena and assist in basically one, matching partnership and help. For example, if there are companies from Taiwan and from Israel, we can help locating relevant technological partners. We support together with our with government partners or innovation partners in various countries. We support the R&D projects, and of course help with business development activities in Asia Market Pacific through roadshows and other activities. Currently, now one more maybe addition or focus is that the pilots, the R&D and joint pilots, it's usually government and foreign government, and we match from the Israeli applicant and foreign applicant. They both present the answer call for proposal, present an R&D project, and then we basically we judge. We have our experts, about 180 evaluators that are examining every request for grant, so we can to have the best, I would say, technological offer and project, and then we make the decision on whether to support it or not. It can cover up to 50% of the advanced pilot. Taiwan and Israel, we have our collaboration between DOIT and ITIC launched with the Israel-Taiwan R&D program. So far, 14 proposals have been submitted, and we had several delegations, B2B events, and roadshows. Currently, we have an active call for proposal that is open for submission until February 19, and then a joint call. And I would encourage you to reach out to us. You can see the name of the person who is in charge of the connection with Taiwan, and he can help with the office. Of course, in Taiwan, the person who is in charge on the side of ITRI, and they can help with all the necessary information and help with the matching and the further information about the call. One more word maybe to add, knowing and being myself working in the past in Taiwan and knowing the technological advancement and innovation and strengths of Taiwan, especially in the semiconductor market. I do encourage you to explore Israel and its strength within the semiconductor industry, especially when we come and discuss metrology equipment and chip design capabilities, etc. So there is a lot to work together on. There are many fronts and many opportunities. And I want to thank you for being here and for listening. And I hope to see more projects submitted soon to this call. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shlomi. Thank you for sharing with us the workings of the Innovation Authority in Israel, and also the successes that you've had with Taiwan. Let us move on. Our next speaker is Miss Noah Asher, and she is with one of the biggest companies in Japan, NTT, and she will share with us NTT's experience, NTT as a multinational company in Japan, their experience in working with Israel. Okay, so over to you, Noah.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Let me know if I can share. 1 second, my presentation. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I don't want to repeat too much what my colleagues have presented. So I will review a little bit NTT and our services in Israel, and then I will let you know how we work in times of war and some of the lessons that we've learned. So you probably know of NTT. NTT is a Fortune 100 company. We have more than 330 people, 1,000 people around the world in around 100 countries and markets. It's a group company of about 952 entities, with the headquarters in Tokyo, in Japan. Traditionally, it used to be the Japanese telecom company, established in 1850. But as you can see today, NTT group companies have been working in various fields and various verticals and industries. NTT is very unique in terms of R&D expenses. So about $3.6 billion a year are being spent on R&D. It has 17,000 patents, so very, very strong on IP. It's considered to be the #1 in terms of data center. It's one of the top 5 global service providers. And also we have a VC of $500 million to invest in startups. And as you can see, as I said before, NTT has changed from a telecom company. 83% of our revenue in 1985 was on the telecom, then changed a little bit more to voice and to mobile. And in 2021, we see that the voice and the telecom has only 17% of what NTT has been doing. And NTT is considered to be a global system integrator, specializing on IP, very advanced IP and data centers, as well as touching various fields. In 2014, what I call the Israel-Japan economic revolution has started. As my colleagues mentioned before, there are about 400 multinational corporations in Israel. And before 2014, there were almost no Japanese corporations active in Israel and looking for open innovation. 2014 was the turning point where a lot of G2G activities, government activities has started, as well as B2B activities and large acquisitions of Israeli companies by Japanese conglomerate. One of the biggest acquisitions, the first one, was when Rakuten has purchased an Israeli company called Viber. And with that, we started seeing Japan take a more active role in the Israeli foreign direct investments. In 2021, Japan has reached 16% of the Israeli foreign direct investments. In 2022, we are around 12%, with 67 investments in various sectors. And we started seeing more and more Japanese corporations moving into Israel, understanding that Israel is the place to find new ways to be competitive, new revenue streams, new value to their customers, and understanding that if they're not in Israel, they're missing so many opportunities that their competitors from other areas are taking advantage of. NTT has understood that as well. And we were established in July 2021 by our ex-CEO and now chairman of NTT, Sawada-san, with the mission to become the focal point of the NTT group to the Israeli innovation ecosystem, understanding that by tapping into the Israeli innovation ecosystem, we can promote innovation within NTT, as well as to NTT's customers, and promote digital transformation. We have about 6 types of services that we provide to the NTT group. We are a subsidiary of the holding company, providing services to the whole group, to the whole 952 different subsidiaries and different business units, as well as to NTT's customers. And the idea is that we can bring technologies that are ready to instantly solve customer needs with almost zero R&D costs. Our main pillar of operation is creating partnerships for commercialization. So we are taking technologies that have been invented by Israeli companies, startups, or growth companies, and integrating them into the services of NTT, and solving a challenge or a gap that was provided internally by NTT or by the customers. We also work with the different investment arms of NTT in providing them access to investment opportunities. Our third pillar is trying to bring together Israeli academia and research projects with NTT R&D arms. And then we also participate in the international Team V, which is actually a team of white hackers working internally for NTT and trying to make sure that we don't have any cybersecurity leaks and information security leakage. We've also built a virtual smart lab. This is our fifth pillar. The virtual smart lab is actually a virtual sandbox where we validate new technologies, new innovations, and we can try them in a real environment, in a virtual environment, trying to imitate a real use case. So, for example, we have built a chemical plant, and we have uploaded different vendors that could really serve some of the challenges, some of the technological challenges. And we also provide either other tailored services to the NTT group, if it's research or reports or access to Israel talent. We employ some researchers from Israeli universities and others, and we also participate in local Israeli tenders when relevant. As I said, our main pillar is creating commercial partnerships. We are now at about 10 commercial transactions. We've also reached about 40 POCs. We did 4 investments with NTT investment arms, and we have introduced more than around 2,000 Israeli companies in a special database that we have built. And we now have over 100 business units of NTT involved in our projects. We've had some successes, as I said before. This was on the media. And we are working in diverse sectors. So if it's cybersecurity or quantum computing, digital healthcare, or cyber security for automotive, data science, and generative AI, we cover the whole industry and work with the different challenges that the NTT group and the customers are presenting to us to solve. If we go back to the situation at the moment, so Shlomi has mentioned that clear message that the Israeli innovation ecosystem has been delivering, and you saw the numbers that Dr. Brender had presented before. But we try at NTT Israel to work as usual, because Israel is not a war zone. We come and work from the office as we did before and maintain a normal day-to-day life. As you've seen, Israel has demonstrated resilient through difficult periods before, emerging even stronger than we were. We saw some numbers of companies that were established during times of crisis, and those companies grew to be important unicorns coming from Israel in various fields. We have been able to maintain investment stability and even grow the exports of Israel over the last 15 years, even though we faced the conflict, as you've seen, and COVID as well. And the recovery of Israel has been very, very rapid in previous events. We feel at NTT Israel that it's a good time now actually to work with Israel. As Aviv mentioned before, Israeli companies are continuing their investment rounds. They are able to receive substantial fundings. Israeli companies have been winning different high-tech competitions in climate, in other fields as well. And we actually try to convey this message to the NTT group and move, the projects that we have been working on to successful case studies, moving from POCs, our POCs that we are committed to. We continue to push them. We continue to promote them. Everything is happening as we did before. And we really look at it as optimistic. As Shlomi said, there are going to be many more opportunities and many more Israeli companies that are growing from this necessity. As Shlomi said, necessity is a mother of innovation, and we see the whole high-tech community in Israel being recruited to the efforts of this horrific crisis that we've been through. A lot of Israeli technologies are now being used for the war efforts. Israeli high-tech companies were very, very fast to give solutions. One example is this one, which is an application, We Are Coming, which is emergency rescue. You can push it, use it for emergency rescue, and immediately you will have a rescue team that will come to assist you. CallSight has been using their AI sensors to recognize faces for identifying injured people in hospital. BriefCam, which does video surveillance, has been very helpful. Exodico, which has been very helpful in 3D mapping and mapping of the tunnels of the terrorists, and many, many more examples. Our team, NTT Israel team, has been trying to contribute as much as possible. We have been volunteering in Israeli agriculture. We've been helping NGOs to help the Israeli people that have been refugees. One very interesting initiative, and the next October is an initiative by our ex-Minister of Innovation and Science, Elsa Hsieh, that his son was unfortunately killed on October 7th, who has built this initiative to have 1,400 new startups as the number of the people killed on October 7th by next October. So we really look at this as confronting evil by doing good, by optimism, doing the best efforts to continue and promote the Israeli high-tech as the engine of the Israeli nation, of the Israeli economy. And hopefully we'll be out of this crisis soon, and we will be able to overcome and grow even stronger in the days to come. Thank you so much. This is me. If you have any more interest, if you would like to learn more about NTT's activities in Israel, I'll be very happy to share this with you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Noah. It's amazing that such a famous and storied company like NTT can be working with Israel to build up a research lab in Israel. So it's certainly something that Taiwan can learn from. Our next speaker is Mr. Alon Tal. Is he online? Yes. Hello, Alon.
I'm here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, hello, Alon. Alon is a partner and senior vice president and investor relationships with Ourcrowd, one of the biggest venture capital firms in Israel. So he'll share with us what they've done, and perhaps we can hear a bit more about their workings with Taiwan also. Thank you, Alon.
Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure to be here. Just confirm that you can see my screen. Okay, I'm assuming you can see it. If you can't, please let me know. Okay, so I'll be speaking today about the Israeli investment outlook from both a financial investment and a corporate investment perspective within the context of the current war in Israel. But before I do, just a few words about Ourcrowd and who we are. So Ourcrowd is a global venture investing platform that empowers institutions, corporations, as well as individuals and family offices to invest in and engage with emerging companies. We have over $2.2 billion of committed capital. We've invested in over 420 companies and 50 different venture funds. And we have over 200,000 members within our investor base. And what we are really trying to do is to provide unparalleled access to the venture ecosystem, specifically in Israel, but also globally. And that mission has enabled us to become the most active venture investor in Israel as labeled by PitchBook. And we've done this with the help of backing from some strategic institutional investors that have invested in the Ourcrowd general partner over time. And you may recognize some of these names from the region, including United Overseas Bank, Bangkok Bank, Oryx, and SoftBank. But we're also partnering with many other organizations across multiple different levels, whether it's institutional partnerships for distribution or multinational corporations that are utilizing Ourcrowd for access to innovation and investments within the Israeli ecosystem, or some co-investment partnerships with some of the most prominent venture capital funds globally. And we are achieving this and have delivered results to our investors so far with above 60 M&As, including to corporations such as Samsung, Canon, Intel, etc., as well as some of the leading IPOs on the US stock exchanges. Before I go into what we are doing in response to the crisis and how financial investors and corporations can get involved, I just want to give a few words. I know many other speakers have spoken about the resilience of the Israeli economy, but from where we're looking at it, if you look at the GDP over time, despite previous crises, the Israeli economy has continued to grow. And total investment dollars, number of deals have also continued to grow over time, despite numerous conflicts. And we expect this time to be no different. In addition to that, it's not just about the money coming into the GDP, but it's also returns to investors. You'll see that actually the acceleration in growth of value of companies actually increases drastically from past experience since immediately after conflicts with Hamas. And unfortunately, we have a lot of experience with this in the past 2 decades. And what we're seeing is that actually this has already begun to happen. The Tel Aviv Stock Exchange has already almost rebounded to its October 7 levels. The shekel is now stronger than what it was. And the global agencies have actually reaffirmed Israel's credit ratings. So the Israeli economy is extremely resilient. And we're seeing this also translate into the venture and innovation ecosystem. We've had some major exits, hundreds of millions of dollar acquisitions in the cybersecurity space. We've had numerous rounds that are getting done at significant valuations still. And the Israeli innovation ecosystem remains resilient through this time. However, how does that translate to a strategy for a financial investor? The first thing that one needs to understand as a financial investor is that timing is everything. When you're investing at the top of the market, unfortunately, that can be the worst time to invest. Investing at the bottom of the market gives you the greatest access to upside. And what we've seen here is that even before the war, if you look at the data of what happened in Israel, the amount of investment into Israel dropped more relative to global levels when you're looking at it on the scale of what happened in the past few years. And the withdrawal of capital from the market provides a perfect opportunity for investors to capitalize on discounted valuations. Without capital in the market, companies will bring down their valuations in order to raise, and it could be an opportune time in order to invest. And obviously, beyond H1, now with the current crisis, there has been a bit more of a freezing over in terms of investment capital coming in. But going back to what I said before, investments actually appreciate more immediately post-crisis. Israeli companies are resilient, and the data from past crises shows that if you actually invest during the crisis, you will make outsized returns. And this isn't specific only to Israel. If you look at global venture vintages, the best performing vintages are actually post-crisis. So if you look at what happened post-GFC, the best performing venture vintages happened in those immediate years following. And this really drives home the point that challenging vintages are well positioned to exploit the discounted valuations that come within the market and therefore generate meaningful returns for investors. And it's not just about the capital availability which drives this. The most innovative companies actually emerge during times of crisis. So if you look at what happened in the financial crisis and dot-com crisis, some of the world's biggest companies were born during these times. And I think we're going to see that this will only be even more apparent with what's happening in Israel, because it's not a financial crisis. There is a national crisis at the moment, and the entire economy, the entire innovation ecosystem is responding to it. And that means that it's not just about becoming more capital efficient, it's actually looking for new use cases. And what happens in Israel is that the civil world and the military world are closely integrated because so many of us serve in the reserves, so many of us have been through the military. So real world problems, such as what's happening now, are matched with solutions from the industry in real time. And there's this extremely high motivation from Israeli entrepreneurs and technologists to assist in the national effort. And there is a willingness on the part of the national institutions to move past regulation and red tape in this current time of crisis, such that the collaboration that emerges between the military and the civil economy at this time creates extremely fast development cycles for solutions to come into the field. And the result of that is that tech companies that have been developing technology for other use cases suddenly find new use cases to not only assist in the war effort, but also find new multi-billion-dollar opportunities in sectors that they previously haven't even considered. And I'm not naming any companies here, but these are just some examples from a few companies in our portfolio that have managed to, within the past 2 months, drastically change their business. For whether it's an autonomous vehicle company, one of our companies that has literally doubled revenues through a single contract because of a use case that they found within the current crisis. And they have found dozens of use cases. And we can expect that their revenues will only continue to grow. Or whether it's an AI company who already was working with the government and had government contracts, but suddenly there are so many different government bodies that want to use their technology that the number of contracts that they have with different Israeli government bodies has gone from 2 to over 20. And this crisis is actually an opportunity for companies, an opportunity for financial investors to come in and really benefit from the situation. We're seeing that, and we hope that others are seeing that as well. But if they're not, we want to incentivize them to see that. So that's why Ourcrowd has actually established what we're calling the Israel Resilience Fund. And the fund's purpose is to support Israel in its time of need by investing in the country's critical tech ecosystem and strengthening employment in the tech sector. And we're aiming to raise $50 million and invest in more than 50 companies that are affected by the current security situation. We feel like we are uniquely positioned to do so because we are the most active investor in Israel with over 400 companies. We operate incubators here, and we're very, very in touch with the ecosystem and have access in order to bring this capital to market. And we're looking at this not as charity. This is a financial investment. We're looking to create outsized returns by taking advantage of the discounted valuations that are coming to the market at the moment, with the purpose of helping these companies survive and flourish, but also to create significant returns for our investors. And we're doing this without management fees or carried interest. This is our contribution to the ecosystem, and we want it to be an extremely compelling offer for investors in order to bring capital to the market and create positive returns for investors during this time. So the fund will be investing in companies that are affected by the current security situation, whether it means that they had offices and facilities in border locations and have needed to relocate, whether they are developing solutions that I hinted to before that are playing a major role in this crisis, whether it's dual use, emergency medicine, disinformation, reconstruction, etc., as well as companies with short runways who suddenly find themselves in an untenable situation with their management team needing to be in reserves, or with some international investors freezing engagement until the war is over and putting the companies in a difficult position. And we've got many companies in our pipeline. We've already got about 50 companies that we're looking at. Here are some of the companies that we're hoping to invest in. And two notable ones here I'd like to point out, Karar, which is based in Sderot, right on the Gaza border, as well as Bionic Hive, also right on the Gaza border, who have phenomenal solutions. Karar is already significantly engaged with tier 1 automotive companies, and Bionic Hive is backed by Amazon. And these companies are doing amazing things on the Gaza border and have their facilities disrupted, but they're so resilient, they're already back at work, and we want to be able to support them achieve what they are, these solutions that they're bringing to the market. We've also gathered a global strategic advisory board around us, including, for example, Ron Fisher from SoftBank and Elsa Hsieh, the former Minister of Innovation, to help advise the fund. So that's on the financial investment side. In terms of the corporate investment strategies, Obviously, corporates are not only looking for financial returns, though sometimes they are. It's really about the strategic value which can be brought to the corporate. And what's important with corporations is that it's not a one-size-fits-all. There are many different ways to engage with innovation as a corporate. And some of the investment tracks that we offer are varied here, whether it's as a traditional LP model or a totally discretionary, what we call a custom corporate fund, which you just heard from Noah from NTT. We are delighted to be working with NTT as their partner in Israel to be with a custom corporate fund, as well as others such as Mitsui Sumitomo Insurance, Comfort Delgro, United Overseas Bank, Bangkok Bank, etc., that have been investing with us as LPs. And we recognize that it's important for the corporates to have discretion to pick their own portfolio with 100% strategic alignment so that they are aligned with their corporate strategies, but use Ourcrowd for their advantage with our access as the top, Israel's most active venture investor, as well as the expertise that we have in-house in making these investments. And what this allows is for corporates to take advantage of the best of venture capital and the best of CVC. We provide both top deal flow, professional due diligence, and as well as the benefits of a CVC in terms of the flexibility and the discretion that one wants to have in terms of making these strategic investments. And we've heard from NTT already. We're delighted to be working with them on a partnership to be investing in AI, IoT, healthcare, and mobility. We've already done a number of investments with them and continue to be fantastic partners in Israel. But moving slightly in my last few minutes to the partnership that we have actually with corporations in Taiwan. And we're really excited to announce, and you're going to be hearing from the next speaker, in fact, in more details, about the ITIC Ourcrowd Israel Tech Fund. We look to partner with world-leading corporations in order to promote innovation, not only in Israel, but in other countries as well. And what this fund is going to be looking to do is to promote innovation in Taiwan by investing in Israeli companies, deep tech companies, whether it's semiconductors, material science, quantum, cybersecurity, AI, and looking to scale up those companies in Taiwan with the manufacturing capabilities and corporate connections that Taiwan has. And this is a partnership between Ourcrowd as Israel's most active venture investor and ITIC, the founding investor of TSMC and UMC. And we couldn't have a better partner in this. And we are already engaged with some of the world's, or with some of Taiwan's leading corporations to join us in this effort. I'm not going to say their names, but we invite all of you, if you're from a corporation, to also join us in this effort, become LPs in this fund, and take advantage of the financial situation currently in Israel for outsized financial returns, but also the benefits of bringing Israeli companies that are strategically aligned with you to the Taiwanese market. And just two examples that are already in our portfolio: New Reality, which is a advanced AI-centric architecture for chips, which basically provides a 10x improvement in cost and efficiency. They are already taping out and fabricating with TSMC in Taiwan. Or whether it's Halo, which is basically doing the AI processing at the edge with a very unique chip. They're also fabricating with TSMC in Taiwan, and have also working with Advantech to offer their AI acceleration chips into the Taiwanese market. With that, I'll pause, and if there's any questions, happy to take them. But thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you, Alon. That was very interesting. It certainly seems that Ourcrowd is very dynamic in its approach to working with others, which brings on the next speaker, Mr. Michel Chu, who is the president of ITIC here in Taiwan. And I guess he will be presenting to us his relationships with Israel. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's certainly my pleasure to, share with you today. After the excellent sharing of the previous speakers, I think I'm in the position to offer some concrete example how Israel and Taiwan can work together and the type of synergy that we can achieve. I'm sorry that this page was actually shown by my friend Alan in his 2 minutes ago, right? So I'm actually here to talk about this ITIC Ourcrowd Israel Tech Fund that we are creating together to harvest on the synergy between Israel and Taiwan. So Alan has already mentioned this is a 75 million fund targeting at, for some reason I cannot switch to the next page. Okay. Yeah, I'm clicking, but it's not. Oh, okay, it's moving. Oh, I'm not. I'm impatient. So the inception of the fund or the concept of the fund actually come from the observation that Israel. There's a lot of things in Israel. There's a lot of innovation. There's a lot of technology in Israel, but there's one thing that Israel does not really have, which is manufacturing. Okay, and when it comes to manufacturing, especially for those hardware-related company, when it comes to scaling up their manufacturing, it's very easy for the company to make highly expensive mistakes. For most of the technology company, coming up with a prototype is easy, right? You have your scientists, you have your engineer to work on something that demonstrate the beauty of your technology, and then you move on to business validation. Making sure that the right business model will work, and then you test the pricing of your product. You choose the right channel. So when everything is aligned, finally you come to the point to harvest, right? This is when you need to scale up your production. You need to scale up the size of your operation. But for companies that who are not familiar with the concept of manufacturing, this is exactly where the company tend to make highly expensive mistakes. If you choose the right component, if you don't have the right design, if you don't have the concept of what people call the design, the test, design verification test, the engineering verification test, the production verification test. I mean, when you choose the right component, it's if you do not choose the right component, if the component turns out to be a failure, you need to recall your product, or you will risk the very bad reputation on your product. So those mistakes can easily set the company back by a few million or even tens of millions. And for a startup company, it can be a really fatal mistake, because it would be very difficult for the company to go back to his investors, say, hey, sorry, we made a mistake and we lost 10 million. Please give us another 10 million, and we will make sure we won't make the mistake again. If that happens, basically no investor will be willing to put any money into the company, and the company will be dead. So from what we learned, actually more than 50% of the hardware startup will fail at the scale up stage. But to Taiwan, manufacturing is part of our basic instinct, right? If you go to one of those major Taiwanese, OEM company, there's 0% chance that the manufacturing will fail, right? So in a sense, the concept of this Israel-Taiwan collaboration is to arbitrage on the skill set about manufacturing. So what we want to do is very simple. We take those Israeli technology company, those who already validate their technology, validate their business model, validate their pricing, validate their go-to-market strategy, but they have the major risk in mass production. So we take them to Taiwan, help them to choose the right Taiwanese partner to work with, and help them to scale up the production. Once the production successfully scale up, then you can easily see the revenue of the company will grow tens or even 100-fold. And that is exactly where people call the inflection point for the company, right? So for a venture fund, we invest right before the inflection point, and we make sure that the company will scale up in a very smooth way, and we will easily benefit from the increased revenue and therefore the increased valuation of the company. So this is the ITIC Ourcrowd Israeli technology fund. And for some reason, I still cannot. Okay, yeah. So this page you also saw that before. You know, Israel is the startup nation, and we call Taiwan the scale-up nation. We are very good at mass production. So those two competence or capability are fully complementary. And this is exactly why we want to really want to work together. So you also saw this. This is an older version of what Elon just presented. So in the previous version, they only have 2.1 billion under management. Now they have 2.2. So if you compare the two slides, you will see, you know, Ourcrowd has been growing very fast. And ITIC is actually the first ever venture capital firm in Taiwan. We were formed back in 1979. So we are already 44 years old. And over the 44 years of our existence, we invest in more than 500 companies. And out of which we achieved more than 140 IPOs. So that's a pretty good hit rate for a venture company to brag about. And you know, we initially started in the semiconductor sector, but now ITIC has already become what people call the full spectrum investor, which means that we invest everything from biotech to material science to everything semiconductor. Okay, so the strategy of the fund is pretty simple. Israel is our center of scouting. We will identify promising Israeli technology company to invest in. You know, the criteria will be the company that has already, you know, validated their technology business model, basically on the brink of scale up. And then we invest into the company and help the company to identify the right partner to work with. Please notice that identifying the right partner to work with is not a trivial work, you know, because you cannot simply introduce Israeli company to Wistron or to Foxconn or to Quanta and hope that they will work together. It's very unlikely, you know. What happened is that, you know, on one hand, you don't know what you don't know. If the company does not have any prior experience of manufacturing, they don't even know how to talk to those OEM giants, right? They don't know how to define the spec. What's the acceptance criteria? How do you deal with global procurement or global logistics? So they don't know what to ask for. And on the other hand, you know, Foxconn or Wistron may not be the best partner for the Israeli start. They may want to go to some middle-sized manufacturing company who are better at catering to their need. So oftentimes, those Israeli companies may need to actually hire a project manager who is, familiar with the hardware manufacturing project in Taiwan. They may want to set up an office here in Taiwan, hire some mechanical engineer, thermal engineer, you know, depends on the type of the product and the nature of the project. So ITIC is in the best position to do this, especially, you know, ITIC is a venture capital arm of ITIC, the government endowed research organization, right? So we have the resource, we have 6,000 engineers in ITIC to leverage from. So we will be in the best position to help those Israeli company to set up an office or subsidiary in Taiwan and develop a relationship with the Taiwanese company. So the investment supposedly will, so the concept of this investment is that, you know, without our investment, the startup company may struggle a little bit. I mean, they may made a few mistakes here and there and may or may not be successful. But with our investment, we will make sure that they can scale up in a very smooth way. So, yep. So we work, you know, we have the fortune to be honor and fortune to be able to work with Ourcrowd. I believe ITIC is actually the first ever co-managing partner that Ourcrowd ever had. And, you know, we have been friends for many years, for years, and we kind of developed a very smooth working relationship. So we will source and screen the deal together. ITIC will be mainly responsible for Asian business development and finding the right partner. And we will also leverage on Ourcrowd's extensive network in Israel for sourcing the deals with us. Okay. Okay, and those are the target sector we, I believe Alan has already talked about. And the best thing, if we go back to the speech of our friend at IIA, there's actually another program we can leverage, which is the collaboration between the Israel IIA and the Taiwan Ministry of Economic Affairs, the Israel-Taiwan Technology Collaboration Program. So as you can easily see, all the portfolio company of the target company that this fund is going to invest in will definitely qualify as the fund for the incentive program from both IIA and Taiwan Ministry of Economic Affairs. So this means that when we set up a Taiwanese company to work with the Israeli counterpart, the Israeli company will be able to get a grant from Israel IIA, and the Taiwanese company will also be able to get a grant from Taiwan's Ministry of Economic Affairs, right? So for a venture investor, for a fund manager like us, this is like bad news, because when we invest $1 into a company, the company will also be able to get $1 from the Israel IIA and also $1 from Taiwan Ministry of Economic Affairs, right? So you get $3 worth from $1 of investment. So this is like a dream come true for venture investor. So yeah, so pretty much this is the structure of the fund. This is, a 50% co-managed fund. We have this co-GP entity, which is a 50-50 joint venture between ITIC and Ourcrowd. Okay, so that pretty much concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all the great work at ITIC, Michelle. And thank you personally. I would thank you for helping Taiwan to make more money and for helping to plan for the future of Taiwan. So a round of applause for ITIC and Michelle. All right, our next, the following program is a panel discussion. And if I can invite Aviv, and I believe yes, I see they are all back, our online speakers. Please, Michelle. Okay, I guess we can all start if it looks like they're all there. So welcome back to some of the speakers there. Okay, well, if I may start. Well, firstly, let me ask one question, and then I'll open it up to our audience here. And please, if you have any questions, or even if 如果想要用中文问，我也可以试试看帮你们翻译. So, I'll try to translate. But please prepare your questions if you have them. Okay, so why don't we start? And perhaps I'll give you an easy question to answer first. Throughout the speakers today, we've heard that Israel has actually rebounded from what happened in early October. Both the economy is going well, the employment is going well, the Israeli shekel has regained its strength. It seems like everything is pretty much on track and what we call business as usual. An easy question. I mean, for our audience who may be thinking about contacting some of the speakers, or having more questions or whatever, should they be holding off perhaps because of what's going on within Israel now? Should they be holding off and try to wait until the hostilities are ended, or should they just go ahead and dive right in and contact people? Michelle would like to answer that first, so he raised his hand first.
Yes, I will actually say, well, I would definitely say go ahead now. In fact, we are being urged by our LP to do the first closing of our fund as early as possible, because they want to take advantage of the lowered valuation of the Israeli company during the difficult time, right? So like, my friend Alon also mentioned during his talk, I mean, right now it's kind of a relatively challenging situation for many Israeli startups. So it's almost like a once in a lifetime opportunity to invest in those technology companies at a very low, relatively low valuation. And, the history have, proved to us that, it's very unlikely that Israel will be defeated by Hamas or any, potential enemies, right? So as long as Israel can prevail, investing at a low valuation will be a very attractive opportunity for venture investors. So from our point of view, we will definitely say it's the best timing to move ahead.
Great to hear from that. Aviv, would you have anything to share?
Yeah, as a central banker, we try to avoid giving investment advice, but I would say that there are some opportunities in Israel that are unusual in the sense that there are certain structural changes in the economy that may take place. I think that especially if you are in construction technology, this is a huge opportunity. There is a huge need in Israel that is going to explode after the war. Significant increase in construction. First of all, rehabilitation of the border areas where there is a government program to enhance the infrastructure. Secondly, there is a shortage of housing in Israel to begin with, and there is an expectation for an immigration wave coming from mostly Europe of the Jewish population that is affected by anti-Semitism signs within these countries, and also the technological change that is likely to take place because of the replacement of Palestinian workers to some degree at least. So this is one area. The second is agrotech. Again, the development of the agricultural sector in Israel is going to take a shift to even more technology enhanced. So especially I think in these sectors, there are demand opportunities within Israel. Of course, the sector itself, the high-tech sector itself has always been an engine, and Israel has invested and is investing quite a lot in bringing in the new generation of talented young people. I mean, the education system in Israel has expanded significantly. The teaching of what we call high-tech professions. It's natural sciences, math, English. So there is an incoming flow of even more people to this sector, even though the sector is quite large in Israel. And this is, again, an opportunity to see the sector expanding and at lower costs of human capital than we experienced in the last few years, where wages were really surging. So definitely there are opportunities. Regardless, I'm not going to speculate about the valuations, but macro opportunities are definitely there.
Good to hear. Aviv?
Actually, I would like to invite Shlomi and Noah to also comment on this question.
Yeah, if I can add, this is Noah, one comment. I think what Andrew asked is also a cultural differences question, because I know from my Japanese colleagues that they think when I'm facing difficult time, it's better to give me space and not interfere. But I think for us Israelis, when you ask us how we are dealing with this crisis, we feel very connected to you. So I encourage each of you to call out to your colleagues in Israel, to your partners. Don't wait until this is over. This is what I've been telling my Japanese colleagues, but I think it's right also for in Taiwan.
I'll join to what Noah mentioned. I mean, that's very obvious. Look, people when there are, I would say when they are facing a challenging situation, naturally they need support and connection. And Israelis are eager on one hand to, I would say to go through this period. Let's go win our war, but at the same time to continue, as I mentioned earlier in the beginning, to continue with what we are so good at, and this is the innovation and creation of new frontiers. So I think that what Noah suggested, like calling people, encouraging, providing opportunities, that you know, we have an offer, and it's not showing, but it's also expressive of that. But at the same time, letting people understand that there is a value in what we do is very important.
Thank you, Shlomi. I would like also to comment from my side. I think Maya, in her opening remarks, our representative of Israel to Taipei, mentioned that friends in need are friends indeed. And I think this is the right time and the right moment to actually approach to us. And we get requests coming from our Taiwanese counterparts all the time, especially since October 7th started. And we are really happy also to learn about new relationships, new success stories, new partnerships that actually have been taking place after October 7th. This is a very strong stand with the Israeli spirit. And Michelle, you mentioned before two companies, Wistron and Foxconn. So I'm happy to share that Wistron and Foxconn Tech shared their press release regarding investment in Israeli companies after October 7th, which is a great support. And it's a very, very strong statement regarding the Israeli resilience and the Israeli spirit to move on and to deliver regardless of everything that is happening at the moment. So I urge and encourage each and every one of you, reach out to Israeli companies. If you're seeking for different opportunities, our office will also be very happy to assist. And I think this is the right moment, and I mostly welcome you to do so. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. It's very reassuring to hear that you know, not only is business as usual, but it's a great opportunity. It's a great time to dive right in right now. Let's open the next question up to anyone here that may have a question. If you raise your hand, we can give you a mic, or if you're curious about anything. Oh, yes, we have a question. Wait, a mic is coming to you. Yes.
Thank you. My name is Ben Yang. I represent a company developing renewables in the US and Europe. My question is also both currently or probably post the crisis, are there major green hydrogen projects planned in Israel? I'm interested in that. Thank you.
Maybe I would like to invite Shlomi, I think, to take the lead on this, because I think Israel Innovation Authority is also involved in different clean tech initiatives.
So thank you. Well, I'll give you an answer in two parts. There are projects in focusing on hydrogen, yet there is certain developments which are taking place, and there are discussions for bigger hydrogen projects, for a hydrogen park, etc. But it's still in the stage that it's not. I wouldn't call them a large scale projects, but it's definitely something which is being developed.
I'm happy to answer from the tech development perspective. Ourcrowd is a very active investor in clean technologies, both in Israel and globally. Specifically in the green hydrogen space, we've taken a very, very strong view, and we've actually invested in a company here called H2 Pro, which is, in our view, Israel's leading green hydrogen company. And they already have plans for pilots both in Israel and globally. They've recently signed an MOU with Sumitomo in Japan. So there's definitely significant R&D being accelerated by H2Pro and other innovative companies in the hydrogen space out of Israel.
And I would also add that there is definitely also a research which is going on in the Israeli Academy focusing on hydrogen, and some I would say interesting projects happening there as well. So this part of the academic research is also out there, and naturally it spills over into the industry in like many other cases.
Okay, thank you for asking that question, Ben. Do you have a follow-up question on that, Ben, at all? Or okay, all right. Any other questions? Another.
Hi, my name is Ray. I'm working on season biology for digital medicine. Recently, we have a very big show, medical technology, and we have international summit. There's a guy from Israel called Iodimich is MD from medical center, Sheba. It's okay, that's real, right? So I would like to cooperate with, I know Israel is very strong innovation, not only on the IT, but also biotechnology. So this guy, they have funding ARC innovation all over the world. However, they don't have office in Taiwan or Asia, I don't know. So I would like to use this opportunity to encourage your people to set up officer in Taiwan, and not only because I want to work together with you, but also Taiwan is very strong on biomedical and health, public health insurance. So we can leverage some detail offline. Okay, thank you.
Maybe I will comment from our office perspective. So firstly, we're welcoming every kind of cooperation, and we are, of course, assisting Israeli companies to also set up new partnerships here in Taiwan. And I think the main goal would be to see this partnership actually being fulfilled and matured in order to generate more outcomes in the near future. For example, Professor Zimlichman from Sheba ARC, he arrived to Taiwan last week for the Healthcare Expo. And actually, I think that initiatives such as the Sheba Hospital, alongside with other hospitals here in Taiwan, is definitely something on our domain, something that we're trying also to further promote here. And when it comes to do mutual learning sessions and also discussing different potential collaborations in the field of commercialization of technologies being POC'd in the hospital, being checked up in the hospital, and then later on to take these technologies and also to get them to Taiwan is something that is definitely on our roadmap, and we will be happy to assist. You can take it later on offline together with us, and we can leave you some more details how to move on from here. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Aviv. Perhaps another question, one more, the last one. Just one more question. Yes, please. Wait, we have a mic for you. You're over here. The mic is coming.
Thank you. My name is T.C. Shaw from SMT, the semiconductor memory chip design companies in Hsinchu Science Park. So is there any opportunity here to search to find companies in Israel developing AI edge chip needing high bandwidth memories? If we can cooperate with, we'll be appreciated very much to forge the connection with any Israel company. Thank you.
I'll take it with your permission. So our office is doing scouting services for all the Taiwanese companies and industries here in Taiwan. So you're more than welcome to leave your details later on with us, and we'll be happy to assist.
That's great. Thank you. Oh, and we have one more question. Great.
You know, Israel is known as the startup nation. I mean, in addition to what Dr. Brenner talked about, you know, the focus on science and technology in educations, and, you know, with, you know, different government entities represented here. Can you share a little bit of what are some of the policies that are done right, and in order, you know, for Israel to become the startup nation that is known today?
Maybe okay, I can start, and maybe later on Shlomi can also join in, because I think that this is a matter of like this is an answer of a national policy. So Israel, the government of Israel has identified the tech sector as a leading sector, and it's actually a catalysator leading the industries in the economy of Israel forward. So alongside with different governmental programs which allocated direct funds into startups, same as Shlomi mentioned before and showed us on the screen before, different government funding programs. We also have a very high percentage of Israeli veterans, Israeli army veterans that actually took the lead and developed the tech ecosystem in Israel. Some of them did it with, you know, private investors, and some of them did it also with the help of the government. But I think that the most, I would say, common thing that you can find is the unwavering commitment and very, very strong spirit to solve problems where other people could not. And when an Israeli see a problem, then he thinks about different solutions. So this is kind of the different or innovative mindset or thinking that is in the character of a lot of Israelis, especially the ones that were engaged with different scenarios and different problems or dilemmas during their childhood, growing up, then later on joining the military, going to the academia, etc. And these people actually are in the forefront of our tech industry. So alongside with the different private initiatives to support these companies, there comes the government, which provides different kind of programs, fundings, and incentives to support these companies. And I think that at this point, I will move it on to Shlomi from the Israel Innovation Authority. We can share a little bit more about regarding these specific programs.
Thank you, Aviv. I had a hard time hearing the question. Can you please repeat the question for me?
Please.
Yeah, my question is, what did you do right in order for Israel to become the startup nation as is known today?
You know, it's a secret Israeli sauce that may be hard to share the ingredients and the right way to cook. You know, Coca-Cola hasn't done it for so many years, so we still keep it. But putting the jokes aside, look, I think that first of all it goes to the necessity factor. And when you locate it geographically in a region that is very challenging to your security and challenging to your economic prosperity, and when you basically need to keep your, I would say, quantitative, but more than that, quantity when it comes to economy, the qualitative edge and leadership, that basically derives, and these are the ingredients of necessity. So you want to survive, you want to flourish, you want to develop, you want to be at the top and to be at the forefront. And this necessity, what pushes us to innovate all the time, to try to move things forward with psychology of, okay, so where is the next frontier? What can we, where is the problem? How can we solve the problem? How can we innovate? How we can make it better? And it started, if you go to the beginning of the first 2 decades of the country was more focusing on agriculture and technology. Why? Because the issue of providing the food for mass population was so for the growing population was so crucial. Then the military needs kind of pushed us to develop more the tech and so on. And today, basically, when is even the Israeli Innovation Authority is basically defined 4 major strategic areas that we see as the next technological frontier, where we can keep our I would say qualitative edge and qualitative leadership globally. We can innovate, and these are and it puts us in one line, in one group with other leading countries across the world. And the one of the ideas is not to decide as a government that, okay, this is what we want to do. One of the major I would say vector that we work with is talking to the industry, and the industry is talking to us. We're not dictating the industry what to do, but we are listening to the industry, working together with the industry to support where the industry wants to get developed. But looking at the defining kind of what are the areas is another component of the philosophy. And I think just to give you an example from a concrete example from this war. One of the areas that people are looking today to find solutions, including psychological solutions, are when it comes to trauma, post-trauma technologies that can help the population to go through this tragic event. We're talking about a country of 9.5 million people. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of affected. As a result, what happened, not just those families who lost their loved ones in the war or in the attack, but also a lot of post-trauma. And there are people out there who are looking at technological solutions who can support this and help kind of find technological solutions to support and to help the people to go through this, to heal and to go through this therapy. So that's where we are. That's kind of thinking. We have a problem. Let's solve it. Let's try to be a leader in that and to find the best solution. So you're welcome to visit. Maybe to add, you're welcome, sir, to visit Israel and to try and understand the ingredients of the secret sauce, but it may take some time.
Yes, it's a secret, though. Yes, the Innovation Authority of Israel certainly seems to be at the forefront of pushing things. Would we have any more questions? Yes, we actually have one more question. That's great.
Hello, Angie from Stone Media. I have a little question for Dr. Brandy. If the war continue for 1 year, what will be the impact to the economy? Thank you.
So in the Bank of Israel forecast, which I showed, we have the war continuing for somewhat less than a year, but in a declining intensity. We estimate, and of course we are not military experts, but we estimate that until the end of the first quarter of 2024, there is a relatively high intensity war in the southern border with Gaza, with Hamas, and then a decelerating intensity until the end of 2024. And that gives us a projection that basically the first quarter of 2024, the economy is still performing at a relatively low capacity. somewhere between 2 and 3% below potential, and then it comes back. And this is based on our experience, because once we get into the situation where there are mostly military clashes within Gaza with limited attacks on Israel itself within the borders of Israel, we know that the economy was working almost at normal capacity, and even more so in previous conflicts, and this becomes more and more similar to what we've experienced. Where the risk lays is, of course, if we open a full-scale northern border clash with Hezbollah in Lebanon, then things may become significantly more difficult in terms of the effect of the economy. But at least from what we see far, we see this as a high-risk event rather than the main scenario. I think that our baseline scenario, based on how Hezbollah has been behaving so far, indicate that they're not interested in expanding the clashes beyond what they are. So this is our baseline scenario. In that respect, we think that by the beginning of 2025, we get very close to potential GDP. The same is true regarding employment. The number of reservists in the army is going to be relatively low at that period. And we expect that 2025 will be a year of strong growth of the economy, and basically for the full year, we will reach the potential. As I mentioned earlier, potential for us is not coming back to the absolute level of where we were before the war, but catching up with a growth of somewhere between 3.5% and 4% per year accumulated. So over these 2 years, we're hoping to catch up with about 7% growth, which will be about 2% in 2024, and then another 4 to 5 in 2025. This is, of course, based on the estimates of how the war will evolve. And this is also where I think the rating agencies are in terms of their evaluations of the economy. They're taking this military scenario as the baseline scenario as well. And I think they are, and we are, mostly concerned about how fiscal policy, government policies will react to the adjustment, because there are very significant costs, of course, associated with the war. And then the corrective policy that has to come in terms of adjusting the budget to accommodate these costs and reducing the debt to GDP ratio back over a few years to where it was, providing the necessary support for the economy, and not cutting on the key investments that are required. All these are policy issues, but these are already in the hands of the government. So they should be exercised, I mean, once the war evolves as we expect. And so far it has. I mean, you have to be in Israel to see, but in the first few weeks, there were very few people in the streets. I showed you something about private consumption in terms of credit card transactions. Now we're pretty much at where we started, 2 or 3% below that. Also, if you go, there are traffic jams again. People are on the streets, restaurants are working. So the country is coming back. We have this, unfortunately, we have this experience with these military conflicts, but except for the first 2 days, which were really this atrocious terrorist attack, really had an impact to something that we haven't seen in the past. Where we are now is becoming more and more similar to things that we have experienced, unfortunately, in the last 2 decades. Higher scale, but essentially the same. So in that respect, 1 year from now, we see the economy closing most of the gap and approaching full capacity soon after that.
Yes, so in the near to medium term, things are looking quite positive. So we'll look forward to that. Well, Michelle, you have something to add?
You know, as the only Taiwanese in the panel, I would like to offer some, our observation. I mean, ever since October, we have been observing the development of the war very closely, apparently, because we had a lot of at stake, right? So our original, worry is that whether the war, what happened in Gaza will expand into, conflict in the northern part, like something like a proxy war with Lebanon, or even escalate into a regional war with Iran, because if that happened, that would be pretty devastating. But apparently, based on what have been seen now, things are actually coming down quite a bit. And right now, all the conflicts are mainly still restricted in the Gaza area. So to us, it's an indication that things are pretty well under control, at least for now. So as long as there's no new surprise in the coming 2 or 3 months, I think the situation will be pretty much under control. Like so, just from some perspective from the Taiwanese player who has something at stake.
Okay, thank you, Michelle, for sharing the positive note with us. If there are no other questions, I'd like to wrap things up and perhaps leave some time for people to perhaps mingle and to network a little bit. If I may ask Aviv to have a closing word with us so that we can all.
Yeah. Thank you, Andrew. And I would like to thank you all in person, our speakers in Israel, in Japan, and also here in Taiwan. I would like to thank each and every one of you who has showed up today. I know it was raining and it was a little bit challenging to arrive here. During the middle of the day, there's no often an opportunity to get this kind of insights and updates coming directly from the various experts residing in Israel, in Japan, and also here in Taiwan. So once again, I would like to thank you all, and we will be happy to maintain in touch with you, and we would like to welcome you to reach out to us for any kind of question, any kind of request that you may have according different specific companies or different trends or insights that you would like to learn. And I would also like to invite you to download the booklet and agenda for today. Later on will be shown up on the screen, so you can have the summary of this event today. Thank you again, and have a beautiful evening. Thank you.